Beta, Yasin, any questions? All right. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the weekly UK Sangha. Today, we have some new friends here. We have Dr. Susan, and we have Veda and Yasin listening in the background. So it's good. Uh, they're here in spirit. I can feel their presence. Um, Okay, so right off the bat, we didn't have any topics to talk about, no questions. So I'm just going to read a sutta. I've read this one before, like a couple of months ago in a Sangha call, but I'm going to read it again just because it's such an important foundational sutta to the actual practice of the Dhamma. So, in my opinion, this is one of the most important suttas in terms of actual instructions of what we should be doing with the activity of our minds. And yeah, at least top 5, if not top 10. There's a lot of them, but here we go. All right, it's called Two Kinds of Thought. Thus have I heard on one occasion the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. There he addressed the bhikkhus thus: Bhikkhus, venerable sir, they replied. The Blessed One said this: Bhikkhus, before my enlightenment, while I was still an unenlightened bodhisatta, it occurred to me, suppose that I divide my thought into 2 classes. Then I set on one side thoughts of sensual desire, thoughts of ill will, thoughts of cruelty, and I set on the other side thoughts of renunciation, thoughts of non-ill will, and thoughts of non-cruelty. All right, so this is important. So he's making a hard line in the types of thoughts we're having. They're either these types of thoughts or these types of thoughts. Now, this is important because not every thought is explicitly going to be like easily spotted as ill will. So there may be certain thoughts that are like, oh, I hate this person. Like, obviously, that's ill will. But there's more subtle forms of ill will that may not be as overt. So just a slight aversion to something, complaining about something, wishing it was different. Those are all thoughts of ill will. Oh, but this thing is bumming me out, or this thing should be different. If only it was like this. If only this situation worked out the way I wanted it to, then I could be happy. So all those are thoughts of ill will. So essentially wanting something to go away is ill will. And 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 on the other hand, wanting something that you don't have could be thrown into the category of sensual desire. So greed, ill will, and delusion is essentially all the things that cause us suffering. Um, if you have any thoughts that fall into that category, uh, a wise meditator practices waking up to that happening and spotting it quicker so you can make an immediate change. And okay, so I'll just continue with the sutta then. And then on the opposite side, thoughts of renunciation, right? That sounds very religious. That sounds very dogmatic. But renunciation really just means I don't need anything to be happy. So I don't need that quick fix. Maybe you're addicted to nicotine. Maybe it's a food. Maybe it's a person. A thought of renunciation is I'm fine just how it is. Everything's good. I don't need that to be whole. I can just sit here and be completely happy and whole. Like that's what the word wholesome means. It means that you're already complete. You're not trying to find a missing piece to link it in. Everything is just fine how it is. Um, So that would be a thought of renunciation. Thoughts of non-ill will. So it's just using non-ill will. You can also think of it as any thought of metta, any thought of loving kindness, any thought of compassion, any thought of sympathetic joy or equanimity. So anything that has to do with um, being happy with the way things are, being satisfied, uh, enjoying things as they are, being happy for someone else. For example, if someone has success, you feel joy on their part. That's like sympathetic joy. And and compassion, you wish other people to be happy. So not because you're practicing wishing other people to be happy, but because you're happy, and so naturally you want other people to join on the party. So that's a better understanding of compassion. Um, it's not that someone else is suffering, and so that makes you suffer, and you want their suffering to stop. No, it's that you're already floating on the ocean, and you see someone drowning, and you have tons of lifesavers that you can toss out. So why wouldn't you try to help someone? Um, but you're not going to jump in with them and start drowning too, because now you're both drowning. Okay, so all right. So, anyways, back to the sutta. So we have two categories of thought, and every thought falls into one or the other. There's no middleman. There's no thoughts that can fly under the radar here. So if a thought has any amount of dukkha associated with it, it's going to be ill will, cruelty, or sensual desire. Um, so um, to become hyper vigilant of the activity of your mind is what actually makes fundamental changes to uh, how we feel on a moment to moment basis. So this is kind of a radical practice. It's the practice that actually leads to emancipation. So it's kind of like a um, it's not that you need to be doing it 24/7, but instead make it a game. Like, do it whenever you remember to do it. And when you forget, you can wake up to the fact that you forgot and be like, haha, I remember again. So you want to create a positive feedback loop to each time you remember to wake up and look at your thoughts. That in itself is a reward. So it's not a negative feedback loop where you go, oh, I was ignorant for the past couple hours, and how'd I get myself into this pile of dukkha? And oh, poor me, and then throw a pity party about it, or judge yourself for it. So as soon as you wake up, you're like, haha, I'm out again. I woke up to it. So immediate fruit, immediate benefit from the practice. Another one is I see you, Mara. So a lot of times in the sutta, the Buddha or one of his disciples says, I see you, Mara. Do not think that I do not see you. So this is another way of disidentifying from the thoughts and the feelings. So instead of thinking these are my thoughts of cruelty, these are my thoughts of ill will, oh, I'm a bad person. No, those aren't your thoughts. That's Mara. That's Mara trying to play tricks on you and trying to keep you from exiting the cycle of dukkha. So how quickly can you see Mara, and can you catch him? Can you wake up to Mara's activity within your mind? Um, and the simple fact of spotting Mara is when Mara loses all his power over you, all his domain. So that would be right view, simply spotting it, waking up to it. Okay. As I abided thus, diligent, ardent, and resolute. All right, so these are important words: diligent, ardent, and resolute. So, yeah, you want to stay on it. You want to stay vigilant, diligent, ardent, resolute, because this is actually what makes the changes. If you do it only for an hour a day, and then the rest of the day, all just whatever goes in your mind, you might get yourself back into where you started before you did it an hour a day. All right, so I think practicing an hour a day is helpful, but um, what really helps is making fundamental changes to how we view things throughout the entire day. So maybe it's better to spread out the practice. Like maybe if you do 10 minutes on every hour on the hour, that might affect um, each hour more. But again, this is talking about um, practice as a whole rather than formal sitting practice. And formal sitting practice has great benefit, but I think the practice should be looked at from a holistic perspective of your entire life and how we interact with people. This is really where the work is done. So like I think there's that quote, like, if you think you're enlightened, go spend the holidays with your family. And then chances are some triggering stuff is going to come back up. But all these should be looked at joyful opportunities to get better or to practice, right? So, for instance, like an athlete doesn't go, oh crap, I'm going against someone better than me. He goes, this is a chance to sharpen my skills. This is a chance to get better. So to have that mentality of improvement, of getting excited about actually having our wisdom and our equanimity tested. Um, and if you get knocked down, it's not a bad thing. It just shows you, oh, here's a blind spot that I can work on. As I abided thus, diligent, ardent, and resolute, a thought of sensual desire arose in me. I understood thus. This thought of sensual desire has arisen in me. This leads to my own affliction, to others' affliction, and to the affliction of both. It obstructs wisdom, causes difficulties, and leads away from nibbana. When I considered, this leads to my own affliction, it subsided in me. When I considered, this leads to others' affliction, it subsided in me. When I considered, this leads to the affliction of both, it subsided in me. When I considered, this obstructs wisdom, causes difficulties, and leads away from nibbana, it subsided in me. Whenever a thought of sensual desire arose, I abandoned it, removed it, did away with it. Right, so actually spotting that this thought right here is causing me harm is what lets you let go of it, what lets it go away. And this thought, it's not doing anyone good. So it's not helping. So thoughts should be thought of as our servants, right? Our thoughts are supposed to help us. We use them to deal with things practically. We use them to interact with the world, right? But a lot of our thoughts aren't solving any problems, right? They're just causing us trouble, and they're causing other people trouble. So the best thing you can do for other people is for you yourself to become happy. And that's the best thing you can do for other people as well as yourself. So when you realize you take a cost benefit analysis of your thoughts, right? There's all these costs to this thought, and there's absolutely zero benefit. And the actual realization of that is what lets you stop thinking that way. So up until then, you think that there's some kind of benefit to the thought, right? You think there's some kind of cathartic release in certain kinds of thoughts. You think that um, this thought is protecting me. This thought that's afraid of other people or dislikes other people. You think that that thought might protect you, but if you actually look at how it feels and the results in your life, you'll see that no, this is just causing me more confusion, more difficulties, and it's not leading to the benefit of other people either. It's not making me understand other people. It's not making me convince other people. It's not making me get along with other people. And it's not even protecting me from other people. Actually, if you look at the more defensive we are from other people, the bigger target we make of ourselves. Um, and it's funny how it kind of works out like that. So yeah, actually seeing the danger in these thoughts, and it might be easier to see the danger in overtly ill will thoughts, but what's really important is seeing the danger in all those thoughts that kind of fly under the radar, that don't seem very harmful, but actually, if we're really paying attention to how it feels, like how does it feel to have that thought, we'll see that it's immediately biting us. So when these thoughts that bite us happen, recognizing that we are holding on to the hot coal, that the the obvious reaction is to drop it, to get rid of it. Welcome, Anna. It's good to see you. We're just we're reading a sutta, two kinds of thoughts here. Okay. As I abided thus, diligent, ardent, and resolute, a thought of ill will arose in me. A thought of cruelty arose in me. I understood thus, this thought of cruelty has arisen in me. This leads to my own affliction, to others' affliction, and to the affliction of both. It obstructs wisdom, causes difficulties, and leads away from nibbana. When I considered thus, it subsided in me. Whenever a thought of cruelty arose in me, I abandoned it, removed it, and did away with it. Bhikkhus, whatever a bhikkhu frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of his mind. That's a really important line, so I'm going to read it again. Bhikkhus, whatever a bhikkhu frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of his mind. Right, so this is the habit of our mind. Those thoughts and those views that we return to over and over is what it's going to create an inertia towards that direction. So when you sit down and you do nothing in your meditation, your mind will naturally incline towards that, whatever you think and ponder upon for the rest of the day, right? Usually. So this is why it's so important. If we change our thinking into wholesome thinking, pure thoughts that feel good, thoughts of this is okay, this is enough, I don't need anything to be happy, everything is safe, everything is fine. Look around the room, we're in a safe place. There's nothing to be afraid of. There's no alligators on the floors. right? Or thoughts of just of love. Oh, I love this about that. Or, oh, what a joy it is to be able to sit here and enjoy my morning coffee. Isn't that nice? Or look at that beautiful sunset, right? If we train the mind to think these kinds of thoughts that feel good, that feel ooey gooey, that feel gushy, well, a magical thing's going to happen is that our mind will start inclining towards that naturally. So we find ourselves feeling good more and more. Um, it's really simple cause and effect. The thoughts affect the feelings affect the clarity of our minds. So the more we're feeling good, the more we're feeling on top of it, above it all, satisfied, safe, the easier it is to see things clearly without obstruction to the wisdom inherent in our own awareness. So um, this this training of the mind leads to more advance and uh, a greater maturity in our practice in terms of if you're thinking about insight, if you're thinking about the progression of jhana and even nibbana. So it kind of this is the gate to the fruition of the Dhamma. There's a gatekeeper, and the gatekeeper is all the unwholesome thoughts we're having, all the hindrances, right? We can't get through the gate until we make a change of the activity of our mind. And this is a lot of meditation practice says, oh, no, 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 don't make a change. Just let it be. But here explicitly, the Buddha is saying, no, divide your thoughts into two categories and get rid of these ones. They're not helping you, right? So it's pretty explicit instructions here. Bhikkhus, whatever, okay, that will become the inclination of his mind. If he frequently thinks and ponders upon thoughts of sensual desire, he has abandoned the thought of renunciation to cultivate thought of sensual desire. And then his mind inclines to thoughts of sensual desire. If he frequently thinks and ponders upon thoughts of ill will, upon thoughts of cruelty, he abandoned the thought of non-cruelty to cultivate the thought of cruelty, and then his mind inclines to thoughts of cruelty. Just as in the last month of the rainy season, in the autumn, when the crops thicken, a cowherd would guard his cows by constantly tapping and poking them on the side, and that with a stick to check and curb them. Right, so a cow herder guiding his cows, the whole herd into the right direction. Why is that? Because he sees that he could be flogged, imprisoned, fined, or blamed if he let them stay in the crops. So too, I saw in unwholesome states danger, degradation, and defilement, and in wholesome states the blessings of renunciation, the aspect of cleansing. All right, so the Buddha here is using an analogy with a cowherder, guiding his flock into a safe destination. So the cows here would be the thoughts. And if we just let the thoughts run wild, it's going to get us into trouble. So if we let the flock trample crops or go into the wrong places, it's going to cause us problems. So the cow herd wisely guides the cows into the correct destination. So thoughts of loving kindness, thoughts of renunciation, thoughts of non-cruelty, essentially thoughts that feel good to have. As I abided thus diligent, ardent, and resolute, the thought of renunciation arose in me. I understood thus. This thought of renunciation has arisen in me. This thought does not lead to my own affliction or to the affliction of others, or to the affliction of both. It aids wisdom, does not cause difficulties, and leads to nibbana. If I think and ponder upon this thought even for a night, even for a day, even for a night and day, I see nothing to fear from it. But with excessive thinking and pondering, I might tire my body, and when the body is tired, the mind becomes disturbed. And when the mind is disturbed, it is far from concentration. Concentration here is a translation of samadhi, which I think is better translated to collectedness or unification. So I steadied my mind internally, quieted it, brought it to singleness, and concentrated it. Why is that? So that my mind should not be disturbed. Right, so this is actually talking about the transition from first to second jhana. So in first jhana, we have the applied and sustained wholesome thought, one wholesome thought after another. And we can see that these thoughts are completely pure. There's no harm in these thoughts. But if we keep thinking over and over again, we may become agitated and tired out. So now that we did get the thoughts into a wholesome, pure state, we can still the mind, or we can let go of the thoughts entirely. Because what we wind up doing is actually producing sufficient piti and sukha, so sufficient pleasant feelings, because our thinking is so wholesome, one wholesome thought after another. And once we got that ball rolling, we don't have to think about how good we feel anymore. We can simply just feel it. So the mind is quieted. And so if we're using the cow herd analogy, the cows are guided into the correct pasture. We don't have to keep watching the cows. Now we can sit by the shady tree and close our eyes. As I abided thus, diligent, ardent, and resolute, a thought of non-ill will arose in me. A thought of non-cruelty arose in me. I understood thus: this thought of non-cruelty has arisen in me. This does not lead to my own affliction, or to others' affliction, or to the affliction of both. It aids wisdom, does not cause difficulties, and leads to nibbana. If I think and ponder upon this thought even for a night, even for a day, even for a night and day, I see nothing to fear from it. But with excessive thinking and pondering, I might tire my body. And when the body is tired, the mind becomes disturbed. And when the mind is disturbed, it is far from concentration. So I steadied my mind internally, quieted it, brought it to singleness, and concentrated it. Why is that? So that my mind should not be disturbed. Bhikkhus, whatever a bhikkhu frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of his mind. If he frequently thinks and ponders upon thoughts of renunciation, he has abandoned the thought of sensual desire to cultivate the thought of renunciation. And then his mind inclines to thoughts of renunciation. If he frequently thinks and ponders upon thoughts of non-ill will, upon thoughts of non-cruelty, he has abandoned the thought of cruelty to cultivate the thought of non-cruelty, and then his mind inclines to thoughts of non-cruelty. Just, sorry, just as in last month of the hot season, when all the crops have been brought inside the villages, a cowherd would guard his cows while staying at the root of a tree or out in the open. Since he needs only to be mindful that the cows are there, so too, there was need for me only to be mindful that those states were there. Right, so there's no attachment to even the wholesome state. All you need to know is that they're there, right? So you're not obsessed with them. You're not clinging on to, oh, I like this so much, I want to keep it. I don't want to go away. So you just oh, there it is. The mind's in a wholesome state. Now I can relax. There's no danger in these states. I know that they're there, and that's enough. Tireless energy was aroused in me, and unremitting mindfulness was established. My body was tranquil and untroubled, my mind concentrated and unified, quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states. I entered upon and abided in the first jhana. Okay, so here it's going ellipses, so it's skipping over all the progression of jhana to nibbana, but that's what it's filling in for here, but it doesn't put it in the sutta. And so ellipses to, I directly knew birth is destroyed. The holy life has been lived. What was needed to be done has been done. There is no more coming to any state of being. This was the third true knowledge attained by me in the third watch of the night. Ignorance was banished and true knowledge arose. Darkness was banished and light arose, as happens in one who abides diligent, ardent, and resolute. Suppose, bhikkhus, that in a wooded range there was a great low-lying marsh, near which a large herd of deer lived. Then a man appeared desiring their ruin, harm, and bondage, and he closed off the safe and good path that led to their happiness. And he opened up a false path, and he put out a decoy and set up a dummy, so that the large herd of deer might later come upon calamity, disaster, and loss. But another man came desiring their good, welfare, and protection, and he reopened the safe and good path that led to their happiness. And he closed off the false path, and he removed the decoy and destroyed the dummy, so that the large herd of deer might later come to growth, increase, and fulfillment. Bhikkhus, I have given this simile in order to convey a meaning. This is the meaning. The great low-lying marsh is a term for sensual pleasures. The large herd of deer is a term for beings. The man desiring their ruin, harm, and bondage is a term for Mara, the evil one. The false path is a term for the wrong eightfold path. That is, wrong view, wrong intention, wrong speech, wrong action, wrong livelihood, wrong effort, wrong mindfulness, and wrong concentration. The decoy is a term for delight and lust, right? So this is the false pleasure we gain out of unwholesome thoughts. We think that we delight in them, but they're actually causing dukkha. So that would be the decoy. The dummy is a term for ignorance. The man desiring their good, welfare, and protection is a term for the Tathagata, accomplished and fully enlightened. The safe and good path that led to their happiness is a term for the noble eightfold path. That is, right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So, bhikkhus, the safe and good path that leads to happiness has been reopened by me. The wrong path has been closed off, the decoy removed, the dummy destroyed. What should be done for his disciples out of compassion by a teacher who seeks their welfare and has compassion for them, that I have done for you, bhikkhus. There are those roots of trees, these empty huts. Meditate, bhikkhus. Do not delay, or else you will regret it later. This is our instruction to you. That is what the Blessed One has said. The bhikkhus were satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. All right, so that's the end of the sutta. It's fairly straightforward. So at the end there, the Buddha said, "This is the path. So go and do it." It's a pretty direct instructions. Is there any questions, comments? Anything else anyone would like to talk about? We can all sit here and enjoy noble silence, but I might just turn off the recording then, as to not bore the YouTubers. All right, so I guess we'll make that a shorter video for today. I think it's a good one though.